Hey, good morning, church. It's July 15th, and we are in the AM Devo with Bo O in Revelation chapter 22, and we are continuing our study here. So, hope you guys are able to join. If not, you can always catch up on these on the CCF Facebook page, where we have a lot of great content there, and it just keeps going. So, tonight we'll have service at Calvary Christian Fellowship at 6:30, and so tune in then too. It would be nice. Good hour-long service, and we're going to be, I think, wrapping up the book of 2 Timothy with Sean and Peter Martin. We'll be doing that, so it should be cool. Hey, Evie. Good morning. So we finished up the part of chapter 22 where it says the angel in verse 6. Another angel. How many angels in the book of Revelation? Quite a bit, right? We can even look it up real quick, just to see how many angels are there mentioned in this book. It's quite amazing. 51. Okay, so there you go. 51 in the New King James Version, so that's quite a bit. So the angel said to me, these words are trustworthy and true. And so what a beautiful statement there too. It's trustworthy and true. Everybody's always contending for their words to be trustworthy and true to us all throughout your life. There's always people that are contending for your ear. And they all say they're trustworthy and true. And it always comes back to the idea of who are you going to trust about your life, and who are you going to trust if there is life after death? Who are you going to trust in with that? So you might, growing up when I was younger, I always remembered thinking like, oh man, who cares about the afterlife? But then when you realize just how fast life goes, then you realize, whoa, you're like, maybe I should think this over just a little bit. And as I always love quoting the mathematician Blaise Pascal, death is eternal no matter what state it's in. And if that's true, then every decision needs to be based off of that point. And meaning when you die, that's it. And so you really need to think through that. So the Bible's always coming at us with the idea that these words are trustworthy and true. And the neat thing about Jesus is Jesus even said, "Hey, test me." Do you see me? He wanted people to look at him and observe what he was doing and make rational decisions based off of what they saw about his life. And so it wasn't just some blind kind of like, just trust me because you should trust me. Why? Because you should trust me. Why? Because you should trust me. It wasn't kind of like that. It was like, look into it, and so we always should be looking into it. And if there's anything we looked into in the book of Revelation that should give us really a lot of amazing confidence in the Bible, is that it has such specific prophetic words and things that are really amazingly foretold. And so we were able to dig into that and go, wow, this is quite amazing that the Bible says this kind of thing. So, we always should look at this and says these words are trustworthy and true. We should, hold fast to that we have some confidence there. The Lord, the God of the spirits of the prophets, sent his angel to show his servants the things which must soon take place. Now, I want to read to you from Walvoord's commentary on the book of Revelation. This is a book that I got from Pastor Scott years ago, and have always read it. And it's not the only commentary I read on the book of Revelation, but it's one of those ones I always like to dig in and just take a peek at what Walvoord said. John Walvoord wrote a lot of great books on prophecy, and some of them are just beautiful because he has ones on every prophecy in the Bible. and you can go through it, and it's kind of neat. So he says the angel goes on to remind John in words similar to Revelation 1:1 that God of the holy prophets has sent his angel to show his servants through the apostle John the events which will shortly occur. The description phrase, shortly be done, literally translated is what it is necessary to do quickly. Isn't that interesting? So that's what that word literally, or that phrase, shortly be done, it's literally translated what it is necessary to do quickly. Meaning when the events happen, bam, it's going to happen. Everything might be flowing, and then boom, right? All of a sudden, boom, 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 things happen. So here the noun is used in verse 7. The adverb of the same root is translated quickly. The thought seems to be that when the action comes, it will be sudden. Also, it is to be regarded as impending, as if it is meant to be fulfilled at any time. I remember this Christian metal band called Impending Doom. Wow. You should look that one up on Spotify. And Impending Doom, man, it's like the most hardest Christian band I've ever heard in my life. But totally right up Bo's alley for sure, especially when I'm skateboarding. But Impending Doom, yeah. Coming quickly, it's going to happen, right? Now notice the next verse, behold, I am coming soon. Blessed is he who keeps the words of the prophecy of this book. Another beatitude, so to speak. Blessed. Guess how many there are in the book of Revelation? How many of these blesseds there are? Did you guys pick? 7, right? 7, that's right. Kind of the number of completeness. Blessed, he is coming soon. That's what Jesus says here. I am coming soon. Jesus says, I am coming soon. It's kind of neat to have that personal note right at the end of this book from Jesus, like he's signing off, right? I am coming soon. Blessed is he who keeps the words of the prophecy in this book. So what we could be doing all the time, in your life is to be keeping the words of the prophecy in this book. Now, what does it mean to keep it? Well, when you keep something, you have it before you. It's something where you know where it's at. It's something where it's familiar to you. It's something that's readily available. It's kept by you. So you have kept it safe, right? If someone gives you something precious and you go, hey, that's awesome, and you say, hey, can you keep it for me? You go, yeah, I'll keep it for you, and you put it someplace safe, right? So that it's available, it's readily available, so when they come, you go, oh, here it is, there it is. Well, it says, hey, he who keeps the words of the prophecy of this book. So we have it readily available to us. And I love that idea, is readily available to us. It's right there. It's right there for us. We should have this book. Should be a book that is all the time being thought through, gone over, readily available all the time in our life. So it's like whatever other books we study of the Bible, Revelation should always be the book we're studying. Isn't that interesting? It should be always readily available. We should always be keeping the words of the prophecies of the book. So we always are thinking, and it's kind of weird how sometimes we tend to just neglect some of the prophecy stuff. We just go, and there's times where, the church at large in Christendom can just become really dead prophetically. So they just don't think prophetically minded at all. They don't think about Christ coming back. They don't think about the imminency of the Lord, right? That it could be quickly to snatch his church. They don't think about the Great Tribulation. They don't think about the judgments. They don't think about the resurrection, right? They don't think about all these things that are mentioned. The rebukes to the churches. They don't think about these things. And that's sad, because when a church loses its prophetic vision, then really it dies down. It dies. There's nothing left. It has to have a prophetic move. there's passion in the prophetic word. And remember what we learned about prophecy too. It said back in chapter 19 that for the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy. So anything that has to do with the spirit of foretelling the word, is the testimony of Jesus. And I think what John, to me, what's this is getting at is the idea that the book of Revelation is a revealing. It is the most revealing of Christ. You want to know Christ fullest, then we read the book of Revelation. And isn't that weird? Because it seems like it's funny. It's like it says in verse 10 in this chapter, he told me don't seal up the book, right? The words of the prophecy of this book. It should be a non-sealed book. But yet for many, the book of Revelation is such a sealed book, right? And that's sad. So it says, "Blessed are he who keeps the words of the prophecy of this book." This needs to be right there before us. "I, John, am the one who heard and saw these things." This is very common in John's writing, where he says, "I not only heard, but I saw." So he gives evidence for what's going on before him, meaning, or not evidence in the sense of outside evidence, but he gives a real. He stands on things that are concrete to him, things that he really heard, really saw. And if you've ever had an experience before, there's things that that you saw, and someone can tell you no, you didn't see it, but no, you saw it, and you saw it, you heard it, you were right there. And I talked about seeing a UFO a while back out here in Arizona. And I don't know what it was in the air, right? But I told you about my wife and my daughter. We watched that thing. And, people could say to me all day long, like, hey, there's no such thing as UFOs. Now, I don't know if there's such a thing as a space monkey, like a alien. I don't know. That's another story. But as far as an unidentified flying object, I've seen one. I definitely have seen one. And the thing is there's things you see and that you hear. And so John says, hey, this is things I saw and I heard. And so he shares that with us. And when I had heard and seen them, he says, I fell down. Now, I think it's really interesting that this is spoken of in this section. And I think it gives a validity to the book of Revelation. Because usually when you write something, or when you're sharing something and it's like a religious, zealous sharing of it, like this is awesome and da-da-da, you usually don't share how you just spiritually take a faceplant, how you bail, and how you sin. Does that make sense? You usually don't just go, man, and I sinned, like right in it, and it usually doesn't go like that if you're trying to puff yourself up. And, but that's what happens. He says, I fell down and worshipped at the feet of the angel who had been showing them to me. But he said to me, do not do it. I am a fellow servant with you and with your brothers, the prophets. Now that is really interesting, right? I am a fellow servant with you. Okay? And with your brothers, the prophets, and all who keep the words of this book. Isn't that interesting? The messenger who's hanging out with John is someone who is a fellow servant, is someone who is with your brothers, the prophets, and all who keep the words of this book. Huh. All who keep, well, we just got told, us humans were just told to keep the words of this book. So it's really interesting. I am really curious who is hanging out with John right now. Okay? I don't know if that sparked you up a little bit of like, who is this who's hanging out with John? He's a fellow servant. He's with your brothers, the prophets, and he's with all who keeps the words of this book. So I'm really curious. And then the angel or messenger says, worship God. And so my point being, my first point was just simply that If John was making up this stuff, man, he sure puts himself in a kind of a real lowly spot, one that really botches it. Because we see that Jesus upholds the holiness of God by saying that the only people that are going to dwell with him are people that are righteous. People that are idolaters will not be in the kingdom of heaven. No unrighteousness at all. So he's going to uphold, the very last parts of this book is strong upholding of the holiness of God. And that the only way to come into the presence of a holy God is by being righteous. That's it. God cannot compromise that. And at the very end of this book, there is no compromise on that issue of how we get into heaven. And John obviously blows it here, and he needs the precious blood of Jesus Christ, because in his fallen nature, he is going to bow down to things that are amazing to him. And so he does that. And it says, "Then he told me, do not seal up the words of the prophecy of this book, because the time is near. Let him who does wrong continue to do wrong. Let him who is vile continue to be vile. Let him who does right continue to do right. And let him who is holy continue to be holy." And that sounds really interesting and a little weird. What is it talking about? Now, I'll read Walvoord again on this. It says, verse 11 is seemingly strange, as a strange command is given, which has proved to be an enigma to some, namely that John states that he is unjust, let him be unjust, etc. In effect, he advocates status quo for both the wicked and the righteous. By this, he does not mean that men should remain unmoved by the prophecies of this book, but rather that if the prophecies are rejected, there is no other message that will work. If the warnings of this book are not sufficient, there is no more that God has to say. The wicked must continue in their wicked way and be judged by the Lord when he comes. So that's kind of how Walvoord looks at this, right? And I think that's a good way to look at it as well. I mean that makes some sense there. Let him who does wrong continue to do wrong. Let him who's vile. I also see it as maybe what is given to us there as well is that idea is that there's going to be some time, that there's this little part right here that gives us the idea that there might be some time before this happens. So people will continue. The word that I'm emphasizing there is they will continue. There'll be a continuation of people living certain ways and just going about their business. So this last section of Revelation is so cool. There's so many cool things. But I want you just to grab that idea of that he's coming soon. Blessed is he who keeps the words of the prophecy of this book. I really want this devotion to be about this. Is how can you implement this book more into your world? Maybe doing more little studies in it. And I'm thinking even after doing this Devo, we've already got through the book. We've already gone through a lot of New Testament books now. But I'm thinking of maybe just doing some devos of just maybe touching base on some of these things that are in the book of Revelation, some of the subjects that we've kind of hammered through. This is doing a little devo on those. Just to keep the words of the prophecy of this book. So hold fast to that. We're going to finish up, I think, Thursday or Friday with the book. And we get into the Behold, I am coming soon once again in verse 12. And it should be great. And I hope you guys have a great day, and hope to see you either online tonight or in person. Bring a mask if you can at the church. If not, we have one there for you. And we will talk to you soon, okay? Take care. Bye-bye.